It's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you would, please rise. If John McLemore with Belmont Baptist would come forward and lead us in the invocation. Well, it looks like I'm going to do the invocation. If you would, pray with me. Father, thank you for this day. And Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together. Father, we just say a special prayer for all of our first responders. Father, that you would keep them safe as they take care of our citizens. Father, we just pray for wisdom, and we pray for us to keep the citizens first. Father, we love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. This time, Councilmember White will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated. Okay, we have no proclamations, awards, or presentations, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Move to other council actions, ordinances. Consider an ordinance to establish speed limits. Mr. Feldman.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This agenda item is basically all the roads that were annexed beginning of January of this year. I'm bringing those speed limits that are currently out on those roads into our city ordinance. So that's what all of these speed limits are set at.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, under resolutions.
Us doing that?
No, it's Councilmember
I
White.
think it's me.
You'll give us a second, we'll try to turn it off and turn it on so that fixes the problem.
Yeah, reboot. We will work on that issue. Okay, under resolutions, item number 2, consider approval of a resolution in opposition to the revenue cap at the legislature and legislative interference with local services. Mr. Landers, I'll let you talk about that.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution that was prepared at the council's request to speak to the bill that's been filed in Austin that many local city councils believe is kind of an interference with local control of your taxing authority.
Okay, we do have some citizens who would like to speak. We'll give you 3 minutes to speak, and then the first is Connie Coots. I apologize
Okay,
for
good.
buzzing.
Okay. I have an assistant here.
No, you're fine. Thank you, sir.
No, sir, thank you.
Hello, Mayor Turner and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. Of course, my name is Connie Coots. I'm the CEO of the Odessa Board of Realtors. Several of our members are also here tonight. We are here to help clarify misinformation that might be leading to the proposed resolution on the agenda and ultimately encourage you not to vote for the resolution. The resolution is related to the legislation currently being debated at the Texas Capitol known as Senate Bill 2 and House Bill 2. The resolution calls for council to formally oppose a revenue cap. However, there is nothing in the legislation that would cap or limit the city's ability to generate revenue. The legislation would simply require the city to go to the voters if you propose a tax rate that would generate more than a certain percent than the previous year. This legislation currently has the percent at 2.5%, also known as the rollback rate. So we would have a ballot measure on the November ballot when voters are already going to the polls. If you propose a tax rate that would bring in 2.5% or more funds than the previous year. The current rollback rate of 8% was set in 1981 during a time of high inflation. Since then, inflation has fallen, yet the rollback rate remains the same. This legislation also brings the rollback rate more than in line with the rate of inflation. And just to be clear, we agree with you that a local government's revenue decision should be made locally. That's why we support this legislation, because it leaves the decision to the hands of the voters. These are the very people who are feeling the burden of the increasing property tax across our community. Our Realtor members have conversations about effective property tax rates and affordability every day. They sit with potential homeowners at their kitchen tables, reminding them to factor their property tax bills into their purchases, and unfortunately, sometimes they must have frank decisions about whether their dream of home or expanded office space even within their means, whether to factor their property tax liability. Realtors also talk with current homeowners who are looking to move up but concerned about if they will be able to afford their higher property taxes in their desired neighborhoods. And every year during the property appraisal tax season, property owners contact realtors to ask for comps to build a case for protesting their property appraised values, often thinking this is the only resource to lower their property tax bill. This can be a difficult decision because we believe that no one should be actively trying to limit how to make their property worth less. We buy property, our homes, our businesses, our land to increase the value. That's what makes Texas real estate such a great investment, which leads me to House Bill Senate, and that's what leads me to Senate Bill 2 and House Bill 2 specifically. We believe that these are good bills for Texas taxpayers, in part because they help put the focus away from appraisals, but put focus on the other side of the equation. The process is used to set tax rates. The current process is challenging at best, and the only resource property owners have to share their feedback is during public hearings when tax rates are being set.
Time is up.
And we're just asking you to please let the legislation provide more transparency in the process and to please not pass this resolution.
Okay. The next is Aubrey Mayberry.
Before that time starts, is there a copy of this resolution? Because we haven't even actually seen the resolution.
The resolution is actually, if you go to the Texas legislature, you can print the entire, for the revenue caps or for ours.
Y'all's is on that?
Yeah, we've got copies of those. Let me take this out and I'll just let you have this one. And I think it'll be one of the tabs.
All right. Property tax reform was overwhelmingly supported by the Republican Party of Texas at our county convention, at our precinct convention, our county convention, and at our state convention. It was all supported. It was also adopted as a legislative priority. Now, you're talking about the state overwhelmingly or overstepping their bounds. This isn't the state overstepping their bounds. This is the state stepping forward and saying, look, our voters have come to us and said this needs to be done. And that's what they have started to do. It's not really an issue of them overstepping. It's an issue of taxing entities deciding that they need to spend more money and that they don't want anybody putting a limit on that. I'm sorry, that's not how it works. Let's see. In Texas is the second only to California in municipal debt. Like many have said before, we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. I'm glad to see this issue before the City Council because this vote will be a clear indicator to the voters in Odessa who supports more spending and who's truly a fiscal conservative. Just give you the numbers in Texas, 2018, according to the Texas Comptroller, $218 billion total local debt. There is a problem, there is an issue. Our state is stepping in before local municipalities' debt and spending actually affects our state's credit rating. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Matt Stringer.
Good evening. My name is Matt Stringer, and I'm here to speak against this council's proposal to adopt a resolution in opposition of property tax reform legislation currently being considered in our state legislature. This legislation wasn't made a priority for the people of Texas by Governor Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and Speaker of the House Dennis Bonnen for a light reason. They brought it to the forefront of the state's priorities because they are listening to the voices of the majority of Texans, including Odessans, who are crying out for relief from overburdened taxes that are being levied in many instances by the reckless and irresponsible spending habits of local governments. I would point out that in this agenda for this resolution, it calls this reform a revenue cap. That isn't true. Senate Bill 2 simply lowers the rollback rate, where if you want to increase the burden on my home to fund your budget, you need to show that your proposal is fiscally prudent enough for we, the people, to invest in. There's a lot of misinformation being spread about the proposed legislation, that it is somehow depriving cities of local control and home rule, and that it is an encroachment of state government into local affairs. I believe the best home rule is me ruling over my home. It cannot get any more local than empowering the right of the individual citizen with the ability to say, you cannot have my home if you are not being fiscally prudent. I appreciate the state of Texas working to empower citizens with this system of check. And in closing, I would remind this council to not work against the will of the people you serve by opposing this legislation. Thank you.
Okay, the last is Dottie Chavez. Ms. Chavez.
Good evening. I don't think I could say much more than what's been said before me, but I would like to ask you why you oppose this tax reform.
Well, I'll go over some of the reasons. The legislature, when it came to school finance, they're the reason school finance the local taxes went up, because they pulled money from the local districts. That's why your school district bill is going up, because of Robin Hood. And the state has failed to pass any school reforms that will ease the tax burden that was pushed down on us citizens. The state is very good at telling us what we need to do, but not funding it. Prime example is the stormwater. TCEQ came out and said, you as a city are responsible for any water that leaves a person's business and goes on to somebody else's. We're not going to give you any money for that, but you need to start working on that. So we've had to fire 5 employees because of a state mandate.
But I don't think that that doesn't have anything to do with you still being transparent with the citizens of Odessa.
We're as transparent as we can be. You're welcome to anything we have.
But why would that be any problem to tell us that you, or leave it out there for us to have a say so or know when our property taxes will go up? And the reason it's just being more transparent, the tax reform that they're trying to pass. I mean, you have to answer to us. I mean, you work for us. I work for the school. I have to answer. I have to know that I'm there because I have students. You're there because you have us citizens of Odessa. And that's just one more way to be transparent to us. I understand the expenses and the things that happen and things you need to pay, but that's just being more transparent to us.
Okay. So we're wearing out roads at a faster pace than we ever have. So we as a governing body have to decide, do we want to put more money towards the roads or do we not? The state is not pitching in anything for the local roads. They're not pitching in because we have to hire 56 more firemen for 2 new stations because we run as many runs on a yearly basis as the city of Lubbock does with 8 fire stations. They have 16. There are things for the public safety. Ad valorem taxes are a small part of our budget. They pay for the police and a very small part of the fire.
But that's not saying no to those expenses. It's just opening up to us knowing what's going on. That's not us saying the citizens of Odessa being informed that property taxes are going up. It's not us saying no, we don't support those entities. The police, the fire, of course, the essentials that the city has to have. But that's not us saying no to it. That's us citizens saying we want to be able to know what's going on.
Well, but I'm just looking at the numbers, and actually, the rollback rate now is at 4%, according to the legislature today. So it's still got to go through. We'll see where it goes. But sales tax is good right now, but we've all seen when things turn and sales tax goes down. We hire 56 firemen. You don't lay off firemen. That's constant expense that goes up every time. We have to pay our employees more. We have CDL drivers. Do you have any idea what they go for right now?
And that's the very reason that you should not be opposed to it, because you can justify this, to us when it comes time, and you're saying, hey, we need to raise your property taxes, and this is a reason, and showing us the budgets and showing us and being transparent.
The budgets are available every year, whether a citizen gets it or not, is that citizen's choice.
I understand, but it's just being transparent to us. That's all. I don't understand why you would oppose being transparent.
But the state, right from the Fed comes in, says you're going to do this. They're not the ones living in this city, but they're going to sit in Austin and say, we know better. They need to give more to TxDOT. Our roads are falling apart, but all the money goes to I-35 corridor.
But I don't understand the reasons. Yes, you can justify the reasons to us when it comes to that time to raise property taxes, but why not be transparent in the meantime? And that's my question.
I debate whether you say we're not transparent.
Well, no, I'm not saying that's just being transparent.
We're not being transparent. You've said that 3 or 4 times. I'm just saying we are. Everything is on the website. If you have a question, you're welcome to call any of us to find out the answer.
But this would be informing us of when you're raising property taxes. That's why I'm saying that's just being more transparent. I'm not saying you're not transparent. It's being more transparent to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any more comments from council?
I've got a comment.
Go ahead.
Just a real brief one, because I'm a new council member, but I think the tendency seems to always be to say that, in fact, it was said tonight, that we are reckless spenders. And I can tell you, I've been on this council since November, and the deliberation that goes into how monies are spent in the needs of this city, the infrastructure that we need, are tremendous. I'm of the opinion, and always have been, that people don't mind paying taxes. They just mind not knowing what their taxes are being used for. So I think it is very important that we continue to put out in front of people, and maybe better than we do. The information is there for you to come and get, but maybe we need a way to, through the newspaper or something, maybe we need a way to tell you all the time what we are talking about and what we're facing. So this is not the opposition to this was not because we want to pull something over on you. It's not because we want to spend money recklessly. It's because we have an excess of $300 million of infrastructure needs that are going to happen. And property taxes are a very insignificant piece of that. So I just would tell you that it's a bit insulting when the insinuation is that we're reckless spenders, because there's not a person up here that is gaining anything from whether the property tax goes up or down. So,
Okay, anything else? And one benefit citizens of Odessa do enjoy are the homestead exemptions. Your neighbors to the east do not have homestead exemptions, which save you a significant amount of money. That's a choice councils have made. That's why the tax rate over here is higher, because we don't have as many appraised. They have $16 billion in appraised value. We have 11. And
I'm sorry, I would point out that exemption amounts to 17% of our available taxes. It's a lot of money.
and it goes to senior citizens, homestead exemptions, disabled exemptions. So all of you are paying for those exemptions, you know, but everybody likes them when they get them.
Well, and I think we've proven to be fiscally responsible. I think our property tax actually rate went down this year. Whenever the valuations went up, the property tax rate actually went down, so we didn't jump on an opportunity to gouge anybody.
But one thing I talked to Kel Seliger, and he made a great point. He said, don't say no to something if you're not going to propose something. What we need to propose is a 10% appraisal cap, or appraisal can't go above 10%. Part of this legislation was written for Dallas, for Houston, for Austin, where they're seeing 30-40% appraisal increases because Austin's crazy and they don't have any housing. It's all going up as fast as it can, and that's part of it. But we're looking at $500 million worth of infrastructure needs, and we have to be able to plan for the future. So, okay, anything else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next, we move to consider approval in support of the U.S. Census Bureau. Mr. Monroe.
Mayor, Council, the item before you this evening is simply a resolution of support for the census effort. The 2020 census will be coming up before we know it. As you all know, that is more critical to this community now more than ever. We have, over the last few years, we've seen exponential growth, and we've seen a number of people come into our community who are now residents, and many people who come and work here and leave on the weekend. So this is simply this is the council, rather, showing your support that we will do what we can as a community to make sure that this is a successful census count come 2020.
And there is no money associated with this. We are going to work with the county to see what we can put together to make sure we get effective count. So I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next, move to appointment of boards. I believe Councilmember Hamilton wants to pull his nominations off. Is there any other council member?
I want to approve mine that are on there. Norma, if you will.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the remaining.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next, move to appointment of boards as a council group. These are, Armando Rodriguez is going to continue to serve, and the Mayor's Drug and Crime Commission is set by the bylaws, so I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We have no more cards for citizen comments on non-agenda items, so we will recess for executive session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, and Section 551.074, personnel matters, the city will adjourn into executive session to consider the performance evaluation of interim city attorney and possible action on interim legal services and reconvene in open session. So I will entertain a motion to go in executive.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are now in executive session at 6:25. Thank you. Go ahead and call a meeting to order. We are coming out of executive session at 7:45. Can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And we were in executive session. No action was taken. So last thing on the agenda is to adjourn. If I can have a motion.
So moved.
Not everybody. Motion.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.